was it like working with Randy? Because people always wonder what the guy behind the Macho Man was like. What was it like working with him in 1989?
I liked Randy. He was really unpredictable, very moody. He was so weird about Elizabeth. He had to he locked her in the dressing room. Didn't want anybody seeing her. He would hide her. He would do if you looked at her the wrong way, he'd be over there grabbing you and doing stuff. So I mean, I had to deal with Macho Man for a while, so I was kind of used to him. I knew how to handle him. I wrestled him a lot, and we had great matches. There's no question about it. He was a good athlete. All his moves, everything was precise, was good. You know, there was no holes in his work at all. So, you know, working with him wasn't always fun, but it did work out well because you knew it was going to be a good match. You knew you were going to get what you needed to do done in the ring, and that if it was to bring back another match or if it was to build up for something else, you were able to accomplish that, you know, and then that Vince would be happy, everybody would be happy. You'd see smiling faces. When you saw smiling faces, you were like, yes.
Well, you mentioned Elizabeth, and a lot of people talk about his possessiveness of Elizabeth or his jealousy if anyone got near Elizabeth. I mean, was it justified, do you think? Were people so close to Elizabeth that it was understandable that he was so annoyed, or was it overacted?
Oh, I got a couple quick Elizabeth stories. We were all in Hawaii. We were in Waikiki Beach. And back in those days in the 80s, I was in really good shape and everything, and I was wearing what they call a T-back bathing suit, quite revealing. And we were all down at the beach, and Macho Man was there with Elizabeth and stuff, and I'd been down doing some boogie boarding and stuff, and I came walking up right by where Macho Man and Liz was, and I bent over to pick up the towel, and Randy went crazy. I guess there was my butt right there, and Elizabeth was looking right at it, and he almost dragged her by the hair off the beach, took her back to the hotel, packed her bag, put her on an airplane, and flew her back to the mainland. Yeah, that's how mad he was. and that was, you know, pretty silly, but I guess I could get the point. Then when they were, Wimbledon? They were having the big show in Wimbledon.
Wembley Stadium.
A good ways after that. And the Nasty Boys were on the card. I wasn't there. And Knobs and Sags. And I guess they were in the lunchroom, or I don't know if they were in the lunchroom, or they were on the bus coming from like the airport or something. But Sags just rips the biggest fart ever on the bus. And Randy freaks out. Same thing. Drags her back to the hotel, packs her bags, and puts her on a plane flying home. Now, Vince, she's in the main event or whatever in Wimbledon in like 2 days or something. So he has to put her on the Concorde and fly her on the Concorde back to London so she could be there in time to make the match and everything. And I don't know what the Concorde cost. It was like $5,000 a seat or something. I got to fly on the Concorde. It was massively cool. Hulk and I and Jimmy Hart went over one time. But, I mean, Randy was just so over the top with his jealousy thing or whatever, just trying to protect her. I get it, trying to protect her. But everybody wasn't out to get him, and everybody wasn't out to get, Liz. But he just, something set him off. You never knew what he was going to do.
And then at WrestleMania 6, you're in a feud with Mr. Perfect. You end up beating him at WrestleMania 6 in Toronto. And then after the match, you cut Lanny Poffo's hair. But apparently, Lanny Poffo did not know that you were going to be cutting his hair, which led to Randy Savage being pretty irritated backstage. What happened?
Another Pat Patterson story. Pat Patterson was kind of in charge of making sure everybody knew what's going to happen, the finish, what's going to happen before, during, and after the match. He did not bother to tell Lanny, this is another rib, did not bother to tell Lanny that he's going to get his hair cut. Obviously, Perfect and I are in the middle of this program, so if he was going to get a haircut, it wasn't going to be yet. So automatically that meant Lanny is getting a haircut. It's WrestleMania. Somebody's getting their haircut. I don't care who it is. Somebody's getting their haircut. So the referee jumps out of the ring. Lanny jumps out of the ring, and I'm going, what the hell's going on? And I see him start walking back, and I dive out of the ring, chase him down the hallway, and grab him. And now he's like fighting me off and everything. I'm like, oh my God, he really doesn't know what we're supposed to be doing here. And so basically I had to hog tie him, headlock him, drag him back to the ring, push him up into the ring, kicking and screaming and fighting the whole way, and pull the scissors out and start cutting his hair. And then when I let go of him, boom, he took off. And, the crowd was going nuts and everything, so I stayed in the ring for another minute or two. Went back towards the dressing room area, and there's Randy, just soaking wet with sweat, steam blowing out of his ears. Beefcake, I was like, oh, hold on, Randy. Hold on. I don't make the finishes. This whole thing was Pat Patterson's idea. You need to go find him because he didn't tell your brother that he was getting a haircut. That's why all of this went down the way it did. And I said, if you feel froggy, my friend, go ahead and hop. But it ain't going to turn out the way you want it to. Randy's 6 foot and whatever, 210, and I'm 6'4" and 255, 260, and I could handle myself. So he wasn't going to get the best of me no matter what. And so he turned around and stomped off and back into the dressing room and started kicking, throwing stuff and everything. And then it was kind of the end of it there. Nothing really ever got said about it after that.
And then not long after that, if people have watched The Dark Side of the Ring, they've heard about your accident, they've read all about it. And you have that accident in July of 1990. But the thing that got me when reading your book was how long the recovery period was of just you being able to eat properly again or to walk around. Tell people, how long was the recovery from your accident of just being able to do day-to-day things normally again?
The recovery time felt like an eternity to me because I was only in the hospital 10 days. The hospital had kicked me out, basically. They said I had no insurance. And believe me, the operation, talk about the old TV show, Lee Majors, the $6 million man, right? They made him bionic. Well, I was the $1 million man because for all the doctors and teams of doctors and equipment and all the stuff that had to happen to save my life and the doctor's bills and everything, it was up near $1 million. And so once they threw me out of the hospital, Hulkster got on the phone, called his attorney in Los Angeles, and he made some phone calls, found out that when we did our commercials for the very first LG and little action figures, those rubber ones, you know. And Greg and I were one of the first people to do those commercials. That had grandfathered me in to the Screen Actors Guild somehow. And technically, I was covered by their insurance. Didn't cover the whole thing, but it covered like 70%. So 70% of $1 million, that was a big deal. And the doctor, Dr. Habal, he was just the greatest guy ever. And he went to the hospital, and everybody, he had so much respect from the doctors, everybody. Nobody would say no to him about anything. He just basically said, look, the hospital, look, you're going to get what you're going to get from the insurance company, and that's it. This kid's career's over. He has nothing, and you're going to leave it lay, and you're going to walk away. And that's what happened. They didn't come after me for hundreds of thousands of dollars more in money and everything. And I was able to just day by day try to get a little bit stronger every day. And once I was able to, they unwrapped my teeth. They took the wires out of my teeth where my jaws were wired shut, and I'd be able to open my mouth and eat. I mean, to this day, I can't barely open my mouth. I don't know what it'd be like trying to go to a dentist because I can't open my mouth really wide just because of the accident. And, you know, I was working out and taking lots of supplements, taking some really good supplements, actually called human growth hormone. What it does is it helps repair bone and muscle tissue that's been damaged. And this doctor from the Bahamas prescribed it for me, specifically to help, because my face had been put back together with all bone grafts, with 32 screws, with 50 feet of wire. They didn't expect me to even survive the surgery, which took 16 hours, 5 teams of doctors. I was blind, and they were able to restore my vision. I mean, I had no brain damage, which was one of their biggest concern, that I was just going to be a turnip, you know, just somebody's going to water me like a vegetable the rest of my life, because I'm not going to be able to do anything. I'm not going to be able to walk, or, you know, with that kind of brain damage, you're not going to be able to do anything. And somehow I was able to get back on my feet, work out, put some weight on, and we call it muscle memory. When you've trained your body for years and years and years, when something like this happens, and then you go back to it, your body responds instantly, and so I was able to get back to a pretty doggone good shape in a matter of like a month or two. Excuse me. And I wound up out in California right around Christmas time. It happened on the 4th of July, and worked on a movie called Suburban Commando that Hulk was doing with Chris Lloyd, the guy from Back to the Future. You guys know who he is? And Shelley Duvall. Some really good people. And they got me driving, doing stunts. I'm driving cars. I rode a motorcycle. I'm crashing through fences, doing these breakaway wall scenes in a big bar fight, with doubling Hulk with a blonde bald cap on, with blonde stringy hair and everything. And that's how I kind of helped to get me back on my feet. I made some money there, but I didn't. It was a while. It was a couple years before I ever even thought about going back into the ring, because basically the doctor says, "Do you want to die?" I said, "No." And they said, "Well, then you can't wrestle anymore. That's a non-deal. You know, you can't do it."
So, I mean, it happened on the 4th of July, 1990. Do you remember, like, did Vince call you? What was Vince's reaction? Like, what was he thinking when all this happened?
I don't even think Vince called me. They did a write-up in one of the WWE magazines and had pictures of me and the doctor, but they really didn't do anything with it. They just told this story. Most people had no idea what had happened, how serious it was. A lot of people thought it was faked, that it was, fake. I thought it was so catastrophic and it was so impossible, such an impossible comeback that why not use that? Why not have one of your best entertainers gets catastrophically nearly killed and makes a comeback, and you just treat it like, that's it. We did a magazine article on it, and that's it.
Because in 1991, you do the couple of run-in man things, but then you come back with a barber shop, and you've got the kind of new Brutus Beefcake look, and you come back and do the barber shop. But it didn't seem like they went far enough to kind of say, look what happened to this guy. But I mean, you came back and did the barber shop. Obviously, the most famous barber shop is with the Rockers. Did you enjoy doing the barber shop? Who came up with the idea? What was the plan?
I didn't really come up with the idea, but Vince did, and the guys in the back, and they came up with the idea. And I mean, yes, the Rockers one was the most sensational, but the best barbershop was the one I did with Andre the Giant. Because, Andre was not a guy who liked being in front of the mic doing interviews. Hated it. Did not like it. Refused most of the time to do it. And that would make it very hard when you're trying to do programs and have matches if he doesn't want to get on TV and talk about it. And so now I'm slated to do, this big barbershop with Andre, and I never got to talk to him ahead of time. And I had no script. I mean, I knew what was going on, and he came out, and man, he talked. He was excited and talked and talked and talked, and I was just blown away. I was in complete shock. Because I got along good with him. He didn't like a lot of people. It was like, if he didn't like you, you knew it. And he always liked me and stuff. So he came out there and he did the most unbelievable interview. And then we finished it up, and he put his arm around me, and I walked. His leg was bandaged or something, and we walked off the set, and the crowd just screamed for like 10 minutes after that, because nobody had ever seen Andre speak that much, that well in an interview ever. And for me, it was the pride factor was like, yes. Everybody always put it down as his talking on the mic, and I got him to just wail out an unbelievable interview that's unforgettable.
And the one with Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, the breakup of the Rockers, when you're kind of told, right, we're going to do this barber shop, the Rockers are going to break up, he's going to put him through the window, did you have any idea that would be as memorable as it's ended up being?
Well, the Rockers were, a pretty popular little team there. The girls loved the young guys, in their little outfits running around there. The thing was that Shawn Michaels had gone behind Marty's back and made a deal with Vince, but the deal didn't include Marty. And I gotta tell you, I really wasn't sure exactly what was gonna happen in that exchange. First he got actually thrown through the window, then he got kicked through the window on the second time. And Shawn stabbed Marty in the back. They had no plans for Marty, and him and Vince were they were all happy. They were having a good old time, and they just on Marty and left him hanging in midair. And basically, his career tanked pretty well after that. He worked for a while, but then he wound up just leaving the WWE, WWF. And then his life became one drunk fest from one day to the next, to the next, to the next. And it was terrible to see. Marty was a good guy. He was a good wrestler. He was a nice kid. And the fact that Vince and his own partner of years and years would do that to him sickened me to no end. I mean, I lost total respect for Shawn Michaels at that point. I tell you, I don't have any time for him. You know, and I was pissed with Vince, but what are you going to do? Vince is Vince. Vince is going to do what Vince wants to do. And if you start making waves and, with Vince and start saying shit, your ass will be out the door so fast, it would make your head spin.